What's up, everyone? It's Fiona Aedgar, Astrologer here. Okay, so something a little different today, and it's something that's very close to home for me. And I'm looking at the astrology for Northern Ireland, the country where I come from. So I noticed something very interesting about the astrology to the chart of Northern Ireland in 2023, specifically March 2nd. However, what I'm about to tell you is starting to unfold already, and it will continue to do so into 2024. So the chart that I'm looking at, December 7th, 1922. So this is the day after the establishment of the Free State, the Republic of Ireland. And on this day, the Parliament of Northern Ireland addressed the King, requesting its secession from the Irish Free State. So this is the birth chart for the country of Northern Ireland. So before I get into the astrology, I just wanted to say I grew up in Northern Ireland during the 80s and 90s, when, of course, we had the terrorism going on, otherwise known as the Troubles, which is an understatement. I did grow up in a Protestant. I had a Protestant background. However, myself, I have never been a Christian or connected to the church in any way. Other than that, I went to an integrated school, and I grew up kind of free of the kind of, not free, but I wasn't influenced by any kind of bigotry. Okay, now people will ask, what do you want? I never identified with either the Republic of Ireland or the UK as a whole. And I still don't. In fact, I'm even more strong in my feelings about that. Let me explain why. The Republic of Ireland is part of the European Union and is under control by globalists. Under the control of globalists who are kind of eradicating everything that is Irish, and so on. The rent prices, housing prices are just extortionate in the Republic. So the UK, none of these people want to preserve anything that's Irish. Okay. So we have a saying here, I'm not sure if it's like Northern Irish or if people everywhere use it, out of the frying pan and into the fire. So what that means is you go from one shit situation into another one, which is like equally shit. So if there is a United Ireland, I'm not going to be celebrating it, but it's not because I don't feel that I'm Irish. I am. But like I say, the Republic of Ireland is EU, and I hate the EU. I despise them with everything because they're globalists and they really want to destroy Europe. They don't want European culture, history and heritage to exist. They want to turn us all into a big mishmash, and so on. Now the United Kingdom, the British government, they're just as bad, right? So as far as I can see, there's absolutely no benefits whatsoever. Now, I'm a nationalist. I am an Irish nationalist through and through. I would welcome a United Ireland if I could see Ireland away from either of those systems, because they're both being directed by the same people, right? Let's not kid ourselves here. Now, growing up, like I say, I'm the type of person that never fit in anywhere. I never felt like I had, I never fit in with the masses. So people waving a British flag, waving an Irish flag didn't mean anything to me. And all of the silly terrorism and gangs of youths, setting fire to things because they don't get their own way and all of that. That's not part of my paradigm. It never has been. I'm an astrologer, I'm a pagan, I'm a polytheist. I have a deep love for all of Ireland. So modern politics don't come into that for me at all. I mean, if I had any influence over this, I would have Ireland be free of both Europe and the United Kingdom, and I would absolutely extinguish Christianity from this land because it has been nothing but a poison. It has turned brother against brother. It has turned our people into weaklings that turn the other cheek, worshipping a demonic entity from the Middle East that demands submission and slavery, right? That's not what I'm about here. I'm about strength, honor, courage, and for me, that can only ever come from polytheism, a genetic link to your genetic gods. So as you can see, I've never bothered with any of that. It's just, I grew up, like I say, I mean, you have probably heard me mention on other podcasts, I was deeply affected by the Troubles. I'm not going to say why in public, but let's just say that my family were under a death threat. I had to move very quickly. Another very sad memory that I had, I went to a private integrated school. There was nothing, really religious there. It wasn't Catholic, it wasn't Protestant. It was a good school. My dad worked really hard to pay for that for me because he didn't want me to go, to experience all of the stuff that goes along with, like the public education system. And you can look this up. I mean, you can Google it if you want, but I went to school in P1, like 5, and P2, age 6. And I went to school with this lovely little boy. His name was David Hanna. And his mother and my mother and a couple of other moms, they used to do the school run together because we all lived in the same place. So they went on vacation and I think they went to Disneyland over in the States, and they were coming back and the IRA put a bomb under their car and they were all killed. I've actually never spoken publicly about this, so bear with me. And, well, that was one of my earliest memories because, David Hanna was my friend. And my mother took me into the garden in my home to tell me he's dead. They're all dead. They're not coming back. The whole family wasn't killed because their teenage son and daughter, they didn't go on vacation with them, so they were left with no parents and they were left with no little brother. So very sad. It was actually shortly after that my own family were targeted. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that actually the IRA targeted the wrong car. That's something I forgot to mention. They thought that it was a judge's car, but they got the wrong one. Doesn't matter. They still killed him. So it was shortly after that my own family were under death threat. Now, I didn't know who any of these people were. I just knew the generic umbrella term of terrorists that they fell under. So my childhood was spent, I guess, not in fear. I don't actually remember feeling fear. But I knew that there were these bad people out there who were my enemies and they wanted to kill me and my family the way that they had done to David Hanna. And there are like thousands of stories like that. Everyone that I know has been affected by the Troubles in Northern Ireland in some way. None of us got counselling for it, no therapy. Even if you were in the military and the police, you were just told to get on with it. They gave them a bottle of whiskey, told them to go back to work. Both sides of the IRA, the UVF, all of that. They killed loads of people, innocent people. No one got any kind of help for that. No therapy. So as a result of that, Northern Ireland is full of people that are deeply traumatized still. And when you have trauma, unless you're a really self-aware person, unless you're into like psychology or astrology, and I am lucky enough that I discovered that at a relatively young age, you don't know that you're traumatized. So what happens is it leads to like broken families, broken marriages, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, and so on. So this is another reason why it makes me furious when I hear some idiot from fucking California using the term white privilege. It makes me want to throw up. They have no idea what they are talking about. It's such an inflammatory statement. It's divisive, and it's coming from a place of sheer ignorance. Not just Northern Ireland. Look at Poland, Croatia. Pick out any fucking country in Europe and go and examine those people, speak to them, listen to their stories. You're not going to call them privileged after you hear them. Now, this isn't a fucking woe is me tale, right? I'm a strong person. I've worked my way through this, but many other people haven't. Okay? And yeah, so getting off topic, sorry about that, but I just wanted to tell you where I'm coming from with this, because I really haven't spoken a lot in public about it. But sometimes as the day goes on and you see these news articles about privileged people, the privileged whites, I cannot even tell you how much it makes me sick when I think of David Hanna lying in his grave at 6 years old, and many others like him. But anyway, so the United Ireland thing, out of the frying pan into the fire. I mean, I know that over in the States in particular, there's this whole romanticized thing, probably because of Hollywood and not good people who did a lot of fundraising over there who are actually communists, right? The Shinners are communists. They always have been. Right now, they're the ones promoting all of this cultural Marxism. So they've always been commies. So don't kid yourselves here. They're not some like glorified freedom fighters. They never have been. None of those people have been on either side. They're terrorists. Okay, so over in the States in particular, I know because I lived there, and it was such a shock to me when I was over there, and I would go into bars and they would be doing shots of Irish car bombs, and I was like, what? And I really couldn't believe that that it was so flippant and it was done so. Now, I'm not getting at you guys. I know that you've been told a bunch of stories and all of that, but imagine how you would feel if you went into a bar somewhere and they were drinking a shot called a 9/11. Would it really, would it be so funny then? Like, I don't think so. But remove all of that, everything that you've seen in Hollywood, all of those idiots that were doing the fundraising. I'm telling you, and I grew up here. Okay, so let's look at the astrology. Now, this is really interesting. So March 2nd, 2023. This is Pluto. Pluto is the planet that deconstructs, destroys, kills, ends. This is right on the midheaven. So the midheaven is the highest part of the chart. By the way, what I'm practicing and what I'm showing you today is called mundane astrology. It is the astrology of politics, of countries, and other mundane matters. When Pluto reaches this, the way that Northern Ireland is seen by the rest of the world, or its very identity, is being destroyed. Okay? This happens, I think, 3 times. Let me check. Yep, I've got Gemini rising. I use 2 pieces of software for this. So this happens March 2nd, July 4th, and then January 6th, 2024. Okay? So this is ending. Is it a united Ireland? It's really likely that it is. Now, astrology is not fortune telling. It doesn't give you all the specifics like tarot cards. It is a way, it's a good way to predict things, but no one knows the small details. It's highly likely that this is the United Ireland, 2023 to 24. Now, we also have had Saturn. So Saturn obviously was in Capricorn for a few years there, as you know. Saturn was on this MC before it went into Aquarius. There's been a lot of stuff going on politically here. I mean, I don't even follow Northern Irish politics. I'm not interested because it has just been the same old crap over and over again for all of my life. And it's the same stupid bickering that achieves nothing. It's the same old brother wars. People that should not be at war with each other. It's because of the church. It's because of the globalists. I've no interest in that, okay? None whatsoever. But I did notice that on the unionist side, we did have a resignation. Arlene Foster and Michelle O'Neill, she's in the Sinn Féin. So the unionist side at the moment is very weak. Now, another thing that comes into play with all of this is the fact that if you are a citizen of Northern Ireland, you can have a British passport, an Irish passport, which is an EU passport, or you can even have both. So one way that they could achieve a Northern, a United Ireland is by saying that, okay, so many people now in the North have EU passports. They can use that because when Brexit happened, a lot of people were worried about travel, so they went and got an Irish passport. As far as I know, the majority of people here still want to remain part of the UK. But economically speaking and all of that, it really is looking really likely that there is going to be a United Ireland. And there are many different reasons for that. Being a citizen of Northern Ireland has always been weird because you're not accepted by people from the Republic, and you're not accepted for the most part by people from mainland Britain. Not Scotland, because Scotland is like a whole different ball game, but England for the most part. Like we used to go on holiday to England or whatever, and we would have our, Northern Irish money, but that was actually like UK British tender. And they would look at it and they'd be like, oh, well, you can't use that here. We only take British currency. Obviously not everyone, but it happened quite a lot. And Northern Ireland is such a tiny, tiny place in terms of like everything else going on. So we're like that unwanted stepchild in the British Isles that no one really wants. And it's definitely going that way. And I think that Boris Johnson was actually talking about building a bridge or something from Northern Ireland to Scotland. That would be like, oh, here's something that will keep them quiet, or here's something that will shut them up, kind of thing. Now, the worrying thing is, right, so something is going on here. It's most likely to be a United Ireland. However, there may be other unseen events that I'm not able to visualize yet. Now, it's going to be something big. And it's going to be something, and I hate to say this, it's going to be something violent. If you look at Chiron in the 12th house, of the chart of Northern Ireland. So the 12th house is about secrets. It's also about hidden enemies. It's also about the unconscious. So collectively, we can see here from this chart that Chiron is sitting in the collective unconscious for Northern Ireland. The wound, and it's in Aries, which is ruled by the god of war. This is this deep, sore, painful, bleeding wound that no one has ever healed. It's still there. The events of March in 2023, well, sorry to say, but those are going to blow up and be activated because Jupiter is going to be at 12 degrees. And then over the next few weeks, it's going to be conjunct Chiron. Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Aries can only be violence. At the very least, it would be a flare-up of something. Now, it could be, I don't know, let's say a nuclear bomb. I hope not. I haven't looked at any other countries for this date because this in itself is complex, but I will do that and let you know if I notice anything. So Jupiter and transiting Chiron, so it's having its Chiron return, which means that the wound is kind of coming up again to be addressed again. That's a nice way of putting it. So I don't like what I see here at all. This is my wound. This is my wound. I grew up with this wound, and until I really addressed it, I projected it into the world. I projected it into my relationships, and I know how damaged I was. I'm nearly 40 now. I can tell you I'm only really getting over that stuff now, and it happened in 1988. So I'm not alone. Everyone, probably most people that live in Northern Ireland or have this to a certain extent. I have Chiron in the 12th house in my birth chart. So there's this, okay? There's this. Let's have a look. Is there anything else? Saturn. Saturn on this day is going to be at 29 degrees of Aquarius. It's going to be conjunct. It just made a conjunction to Mars in the 11th house. So Northern Ireland in its birth chart has Mars and Uranus in the 11th house. I mean, that's all about freedom. Freedom was a nice way of putting it, but it's like extremism. It's radicalism. That's what Uranus symbolizes. It's also delusional because it's in Pisces, and it's also connected to Christianity, which is a Piscean thing. So we've got Saturn activating Mars here, which is this ugly, there's like an ugly T-square here, Neptune and Venus. So that's going to be violence, restrictions, heavy-handedness by the government, the military, that kind of thing. Really not liking it. Actually, you know, I mean, I've thought about making this, because I've known about this for about 2 years now. And it's taken a lot for me to actually summon up the courage to make this video, because I don't know, it's just hard to talk about. I have Moon in Scorpio. I'm super private. I know a lot of you know stuff that I've spoken about my spiritual life, but I've never really spoken about this much before. So I'm not liking this at all. I mean, I'm not trying to alarm anyone, but like I say, I'm not a unicorn astrologer, right? I watch those unicorn astrologers out there, and they're like glossing over everything that is ugly, everything that is painful, and they're frauds. This is the kind of stuff people need to know. They don't need to know about energy shifts and, you know, Pleiadians and shit like that. This is real astrology. Astrologers used to advise emperors, kings. You know, they didn't like play around and only talk about sweet, pretty things. They would have had their heads cut off if they'd done that. All right, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for the solar arc. Solar arc chart. Sorry, where is it? There's just a big list here. I should probably use my other one. There it is, right. So solar arc is like an advanced predictive technique that astrologers will use. And oh, look at this. Solar arc Saturn right on the midheaven. So as you know, Saturn is about endings. So we have this in the transits to the natal chart, and also in the solar arc aspects to the natal chart. So Saturn is on the midheaven. Now, like I say, this is not going to be something that happens all of a sudden over a couple of weeks. We'll be seeing this kind of going into, into 2024. We're seeing it now. If you're watching the news, if you're seeing what's going on in Northern Ireland right now, what you're seeing is the kind of dying yelps of a country. That's what's happening. Now, this is where it also gets a bit yuck, is that Chiron. So this is the solar arc Chiron in Cancer, and it's at 24 degrees. So the moon here, the moon in the birth chart of Northern Ireland, is at 23 degrees of Cancer. So this would have been exact about 6 months before March 3rd, 23. So it doesn't look very pretty here, because that Chiron is a big ass wound coming along, and this moon in mundane astrology represents the collective emotions of the people from Northern Ireland. Something is coming along and wounding those people again. I can tell you, if this is what's going to happen, there is going to be United Ireland. There are a lot of groups here that are not going to take it lying down. Okay, and forget about the whole peace process thing. The Good Friday Agreement was a bunch of crap, right? Tony Blair is a globalist, a Zionist, and basically he paid a lot of people off. Okay? And a lot of people that went through a lot in the trouble. Certain groups of people have become invisible since that. Not invisible, but it's what we want does not come into it. And that's what I'm upset about, is that you don't get a say. You're not really getting a say here. None of us are. If you want a United Ireland, well, your life is not going to improve under United Ireland. I mean, like I say, I'm a nationalist. I want to get rid of the globalists, the EU, the UK, the church. That's what I want. That's the only way that we're going to achieve any kind of healing and strength and unity, true unity. Because, yeah, I mean, you can be united under slavery, can't you? Which is basically what's happening here. So yeah, don't like this. Don't like this one bit. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Like I say, it is a bit of a sensitive subject for me. But I've never identified with either side. Because quite frankly, I consider myself to be above that. So that's it. Keep those dates in mind. It's going to unfold March 2023. It's starting now over the next couple of years, but that's going to be a really significant month. The other thing, just one last thing before I go, is that I did check the lunations. So when you're making predictions in astrology, you have to check the full moons, new moons, eclipses. April 20th, 2023, there is a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries, exactly square the midheaven in this chart. So Aries, of course, is war, violence, flare-ups, stuff like that, because Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war. And it's actually making a T-square with this moon in Cancer. You know, people from Northern Ireland are very emotional. They're very attached to their families. And this moon in Cancer really symbolizes that. And we have been through, I know everyone has in the world, but I'm from Northern Ireland, so I'm going to talk about Northern Ireland. We've been through a hell of a lot. People have been traumatized, the worst thing is that we were made to feel suspicious of people that we met in the street every day, people that you went to school with, your neighbors. You couldn't trust anyone. They've instilled that mistrust. It's never gone away. Now people get into bad relationships, or their families are divided. You know, brothers aren't speaking to sisters, parents aren't speaking to children. That's what it's caused, this wound. So it's going to be activated again. But yeah, for anyone, for some arsehole in California to say that the Irish are privileged, we also had the famine and loads of other events. For some reason, the globalists hate Ireland. They've always wanted to destroy it because you know why? It's really special. It's full of ley lines. The people here are magical. They're spiritual when they're allowed to be, and they're not filled with trauma. Okay, well, that's it. Hope you enjoy. If you want to check out my website, it's FionaEdgar.com. You can book a private reading with me. Bye for now.